We have the pleasure of speaking with the incredibly talented Shalaine Stebner. I hope I said it right.
You did. Shalaine Stepner. Yep, you did it good.
Shalaine
You did it
Stebner,
perfect.
an award-winning singer-songwriter from Central Alberta.
Hmm.
And known for a unique blend of 80s, 90s, and 2000s country music, Shalaine has captivated audiences with her heartfelt lyrics and dynamic performances. With a career that began in her mid-30s, she is a testament to the idea that it's never too late to follow your dreams. Shalene's journey from singing in her dad's band to winning the 2024 Songwriter of the Year award is truly inspiring. That's great. So let's dive into her story and learn more about the woman behind the music.
Yeah.
Now, you take your love of 80s, 90s, 2000 country music and infuses it into your writing to create roots-based, heart-first music. So you
Hmm.
love being on stage,
Hmm.
and you performed all across central Alberta, playing at halls, bars, cafes, dances, Westerner days, CFR, and I thought it said CPR for a minute, casinos. Oh, that people are like passed out or almost dead, and you're like singing, ah, you know, um, casinos and patio parties, park parties, and more. Now,
Mhm.
your single Brenda made it to number 2 on a Canadian indie country countdown.
Yes, it did.
That's terrible because my first terrible relationship I had was with a girl named Brenda. So
Well, you
that's
know what? Brenda is it's a great song about she left him because he was cheating on her. So maybe that that's
no,
not gonna help you at all.
I left her, so doesn't make me feel any better. Anyway, so welcome to the show, Shalaine. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. No problem. I really appreciate you being on our platform. I know that we've wanted you on. I think it was a month or two ago, but you were kind of
Mhm.
busy. So now that
Yeah.
we have seconded you, we're actually pretty happy. Um, Shalaine, can you tell us about your early musical influences and how they shaped your sound?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, or like you said, it's basically 80s, 90s, and early 2000s country music. And I think that that was a really wonderful time for women in country music. We had some real amazing powerhouses that kind of came through and kind of trailblazed more women in country. Terry Clark, Trisha Yearwood, Carolyn Dawn Johnson, Alison Krauss, that whole Martina McBride, that whole era of women, they're storytellers, and they blaze a trail for us in order to be able to do all the stuff that we can do and have a voice and be able to come on things like with your handsome self and get to chitty chat about all these great things. If we didn't have those trailblazers, we wouldn't be here. So I love that they like to all of their songs. There's so many layers to them, right? And that's the kind of music that I want to write, and that's the kind of music that I want to sing. I want to sing the songs that they mean something to somebody, and I'm not just singing like, oh, he's a boy, I'm a girl, everything's great, we're gonna get married or whatever, right? Like, I like taking some experiences, whether they're my experiences or somebody else's experiences that they've told me about, and turning it into something beautiful that more than just that one person can relate to.
Yeah, what are some of the genres that you refuse to sing or play or listen to? Because I know for me it's like Van Halen and any of those, but especially that song "Jump" really makes me jump. I don't. It's just certain sounds. Certain sounds are like
Yeah.
tinnitus to me, but
Yeah.
there's some beautiful music out there. I'm listening to. I gotta listen to it, and I'm on my 20th time listening to it, and I still want to listen to it again. I
Oh,
like
that's
music like
amazing.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that there's necessarily any genre that I particularly steer away from, because I think that there are gold mines in all genres, right? I know I had one particular experience. I was looking for a bass player, and so this younger kid. and I were chatting, and I said, "Would you be interested in playing country music?" And he said, "Absolutely not. I hate country." Blah 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 blah, going on about it. And I said, when you take the genre out of it, I said it's just music. So whether you're pop or even rap or whatever, the foundation of it is all the same. So if you want to learn and you want to better yourself, immerse yourself in all the genres, right? And you'll always find little tidbits of things that you can pull out that will help you when in your next song, and to further your career. I know the next single that I have coming out is called One Dive Bar, and it's quite a quick one. And there's some parts in it where I have to speak really fast, and I feel like my early days of listening to Eminem, that's what helped me. you know
Yeah. The song by Kumal D called "I Gotta Work." That's quite a song. I don't know how these rappers do it. Like, how are they able just to, I know there's a difference between spoken word and rap, but when you got to memorize like Eminem, you got to memorize and especially when you're doing concerts, you got to go like, oh. It's like whoa. It's like
yeah.
really. So I'd like to ask you, Charlene. Um, your name is spelled kind of differently, so but when you started playing, it's funny. When you started playing with an old fart band, a group of mostly retired musicians, that's funny, that played
Yeah.
at seniors' homes and hospitals, what exactly
Mhm.
did they teach you about music, giving you the confidence to get up and play for yourself?
So they kind of took me under their wing when I was first learning how to play guitar. I had some wonderful mentors in that group, and then I learned about developing a set list, and and then playing, and feeding off of the crowd, and everything like that. But just in general, they were just really great entertainers, and they got everybody into it really well. And so it kind of you can kind of recognize and read the crowd better when you kind of know what you're looking for, because you can go to some. I mean, let's say I played one gig one time, and everybody sang along to all of the covers that I did, and then when I started singing my own music, then they started like talking amongst each other and like not paying attention at all. So then it's like, okay, cool, no more of my own songs if I want to keep them here, right? And that's important to be able to look at that and go like, nope, this is how we're going to go, and maybe throw one or two, but not every other song, because you're going to lose them, right? And they were just in general, just probably the most fantastic human beings. They taught me a lot about giving back to the community. We have a Centennial Center, so brain injury hospital in our town, and we did Christmas concerts and volunteered our time to play for them. And not I think it's really important that not everything that you do in your life has to be for money, right? A lot of times you can do something just because it feels great
Mhm.
in your soul and in your heart, and you know that there are people there that will appreciate it so much. And music is like a universal language, so it's amazing how many people can have these major brain injuries and play the piano like they've never had a brain injury in their entire life, right? And it's just so inspiring and so magical. And I love how important they made that. And I mean, all the people that are in either the Centennial Center or in the older folks homes, and whatever, they were once in my position, right? And they deserve all of the love and everything like that too. And so I enjoy being able to give back. And I think that they kind of helped remind me that is just as important as any other aspect of the industry.
That's true, Shelley. And I know that people with brain injuries, it's like I know the brain is set up. God made it that the right side of the brain controls the left side of the body, and the left side of
Mhm.
the hemisphere of the brain controls the side of the body. And if you injure it, it sort of has a way of rewiring it. So, and
Mhm.
some of them after brain injuries, I heard one lady, she had a brain injury and she started speaking a perfect language she never learned before.
Yeah.
And then there's these savants like Rain Man, who's based on a real story, could drop like a package of cigarettes or matches, and he'd know exactly how many are in there. That
Mhm.
doesn't happen with everyone, but suddenly the brain is kind of strange. That there are people, I forget what it's called, the technical name, but you're born with only a fist-sized brain, but you're able to live your life normally, and yet
Mhm.
people who get brain injured, they're like, they can't talk, whatever. I'm thinking, what? This guy
Yeah.
was born with missing like 90% of his brain, and he's living his life normally, and yet this guy gets shot in the head or brain injury, and he's in a wheelchair, and he's like a vegetable. I don't understand,
Yeah.
but it's kind of strange.
Absolutely.
But a stroke really can do things for you too.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
my grandma had a stroke in 2019, and she was unable. She never recovered, and but she lasted for 3 more years in the hospital. But it was very frustrating for her because her mind was still in there, but her body wouldn't do what her mind asked it
yeah,
to do, right? So there was so many times where you just sit there and she's like, and not to sound morbid or anything like that, but we're like, what do you want for Christmas, grandma? And she's like, what I want you guys can't give me. Because she's like, I'm done, I don't want somebody to change my diaper anymore, or
yeah,
whatever, right? And it's like it's 1 minute she's totally fine, and then the next minute it's done, right? And it's like it just changes so fast, so
I
so
know.
fast.
My Aunt Anne, my father's sister, I love so much. She died in 1989, but she was like late 60s. And when she had a massive stroke, that was it. And I think my uncle had one too. It's just the brain is a strange, but an
Hmm.
amazing, amazing organ. And like I can tell you stories after stories about people who injured their brain and the type of people they became. And without that brain injury, they wouldn't have been able to come. It's really amazing.
Hmm.
That's a different podcast altogether.
We got a whole nother hour coming at you.
Shalaine, so do you think your upbringing in central Alberta influenced your music at all?
Yeah, oh, for sure. I mean, I grew up on a back road that, like, there was maybe like 15 people that lived down that back road. But we had a really wonderful community. And I think that one of the things that I'm so blessed is that I had a very normal upbringing. It was my parents are still married. We didn't have to share or go to separate houses every other week or anything like that. It was very normal, very full of love. And I think that for me, that helps clear the path so that I can tell stories of other things, and I'm not so focused on maybe the things that happened in my life. I can really encompass things that happen in other people's lives, and I have empathy so I can feel it with them, but I didn't actually have to experience it myself. Our school was in a town of a population of either four or one, depending on whether the wife and husband were still together. So literally was a country school in the middle of nowhere, and we never skipped class because, like, what are you gonna do? Go hang out in the field with your dad as he's farming? Like, no thanks, right? So yeah, it was very boring, and I'm very appreciative of the boringness of it. So yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, as we were discussing earlier about your song Brenda,
Yeah.
could you tell us the story behind that song and what inspired it?
Absolutely. So, Brenda is, there's not a lot of songs about women named Brenda out there. All these other women have all these amazing tributes to them. And my one girlfriend, who is my life coach, and I 100% say, like, everybody needs a life coach, because sometimes we get in our own head, and they're very good at saying, like, hey, knock, knock. You don't need to lose your mind. Anyways, so her name is Brenda, and she said, there's not enough good songs about women named Brenda. And so I was like, I'm gonna write you a song about Brenda. And she has a lovely husband, and I mean, they have a wonderful family, and again, very boring and normal family. And I had it in my head. It kept on looping around, like, cigarettes and wine, like, because so many times, like, the housewives, we just stay at home and do nothing but clean the house, and then we smoke our cigarettes and drink our wine in the closet. So I wanted to write a song, a woman empowerment song, where she's like, she's done with it. She doesn't want to do that anymore, and he's out flirting and doing all of the things that men that he should not be doing. And she deserves so much more than just to get the 10 minutes that he comes home and says whatever. So yeah, so that was kind of it, and it came together really fast. It was maybe, like, I would say probably maybe an hour of writing, and everything was organized and written out, and the tune was there, and it's I love when things happen so organically. It doesn't happen all the time, but it's a good one when it's like you have it in your head and you need to get it out, and it comes out, and it's like, oh, this is actually really cool.
So, what's your songwriting process like? When you started with the song Brenda, you knew that it was going to be called Brenda. How did you start with it? Because I talked to many artists, and they say some of them, like, I walked out and looked in the sky and I saw the sun and the trees, and that inspired me. Others say I just have a riff that I'm playing on the guitar, and then it turned into this song, or I'm speaking to someone and I say these words, and that becomes the lyrics. How is it for you?
I would say I for sure am lyrics first and then melody later. Because sometimes you think that, sometimes you think that a song is going to be slow, and then you start playing it slow and it's like, oh no, this song needs to be fast, right? So I don't think that there's any exact method that I particularly have. But I do. It's funny. My husband knows when it's coming, because I get really like hyper focused, and like he can't talk to me because I'm not listening to him, right? And so I'll kind of be like dazing off, and with a thoughtful look on my face, and he says, like, just go right. And I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, I should go do that. But sometimes it starts off. I in my phone I have in my notes I have, there are probably 100 just little taglines of things that could be a song, or it may never ever be a song, but I like writing them down, um and just keeping them. And sometimes you have the song ready to go, and then sometimes it's like, I really need to write this down, but I don't want to work on this yet because it's not right. Or you'll try to write something to do with it, and then it's like, oh, that's not right either. I have one of my songs is called Silver and Gold, and it's about my grandpa. So it says he had silver in his hair and gold in his heart. And that was kind of one that just looped around in my head, and it's like, how do I write a song about my grandpa
Mhm.
that is going to be like everybody else's grandpa, right? Like, because that's really what it is. I don't want it to be unique to me. I want it, when everybody hears it, I want them to think of their grandpa
Mhm.
as well. And so I had a gig this afternoon. I played for a bunch of retired teachers, which was super fun. And so I got to play silver and gold for them. And one of the ladies came up and she said, you know what? She's like, I'm going to play that song for my dad and I'm going to watch him
Mm.
cry and it's going to be so good. And I was like, you
Wow,
go, girl.
that's amazing. Have
Yeah.
you ever heard of the reverse of a country song? My dog came back, my girlfriend came back, I got my truck back.
Yeah.
um, Charlene, where do you find inspiration? Not just for Brenda, but just how do you go about? Okay, I want to write a song. I'm going to find inspiration. What do you do?
hmm So on when I'm not doing music, I'm actually a hairdresser and I own my own salon. So I talk to people all day. So I have probably every day I get at least five different inspirations. People come in and tell you stories, and maybe some of them are great and maybe some of them are not so great. But I feel like everybody's so vulnerable, and that vulnerability I appreciate very much. And I never ever do something or write something that says any names or by any means that are directly related to anybody, because that would be rude of me. But I do think that it's because I talk to so many people all of the time. It's easy once you get an idea. Then it's like, oh, okay, well, I can relate it to this person's experience or whatever. But I also do find that when I'm driving, a lot of the times I'll drive with the radio off, because I mean, our roads are pretty darn straight and boring here, because we're not as flat as Saskatchewan, but we're not also not as rocky as BC. So a lot of times if I'm driving down to Calgary or driving up to Edmonton, it's pretty much a straight shot the whole way there. So it's easy to kind of let your mind wander a smidgen while still making sure that you're watching the road. But it's definitely it's easy to let your mind wander a little bit, and then sometimes you'll just be sitting there going thinking about something, and then something pops in your head, and it's like, oh my gosh, I need to write that down so that I can work on it later because I'm driving and I cannot work on it right now, which also annoys me. So
Do you, while you're doing so how's it going, Barbara? How's the
yeah.
husband? So do you, do they kind of get so vulnerable that you can ask them a question and like, yes, I've been cheating on my husband. Well, I mean, like, do you ever get inspiration by a lot of your clients? And if you do, I guess you have to ask them for permission if you can use that story that they just told you in one of your lyrics?
I would say I don't how do I say this without shooting myself in the foot? I don't
I'll do it
ask
for you.
permission. I don't ask permission. But I also, because I don't directly name names, and I always change parts of the details so that it's not directly related to anybody. Because that would just that I nobody would ever come back to me then unless they wanted a song written about me or about them, and then I can call myself Taylor Swift, right?
We already have one of those.
I know, right? I can't. I'm not the next Taylor Swift. So, but yeah, I think that you know, I also feel like there's a lot of times when people are vulnerable with me, and I appreciate it so much. And I will just tuck those moments in my pocket, and they're just for us, right? So I do think that there's a time and a place to pull something out, but it's definitely a respectful thing. One of my girlfriends, her husband was killed horrifically, and so I wrote a song, and it was based off of their experience losing him, but it's so universally and anybody could listen to it and think, whether they lose somebody or they leave somebody or whatever. And so the chorus is, we were in the middle of our love story, but he had other plans for you. Oh, but oh God, what I wouldn't give to write just another chapter or two, take me back to you when you were mine. And so that, I mean, that has nothing to do with like um this guy was murdered, or this happened to this person, or whatever. So it's definitely you have to tastefully change and more broaden the details in order to ensure that more people will connect with it. And then I also, I really like my clients, so I want them to come back.
Yeah, I had a friend in high school that was killed in a motorcycle accident, and his friend, who was the passenger on his motorcycle, lost his legs. Not that I'm going to write a song about how my friend Jeff was killed or any. I mean, you have like the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald by Gordon Lightfoot. That's about the wreck of a of 29, 29 of the crew went down in the ship. I would never write a song about the Titanic or whatever, but and I know I keep telling people it's like, for instance, uh, I know that there's a really good song that I heard from you on your album. It's called Dirt Road Raised.
Oh yes.
And what was it like collaborating with Bob Beals on that remix? And what inspired that?
So, Dirt Road Raised, I wrote it about legitimately the road that I was raised on. My parents, they bought the land, they bought a quarter section and built the house on it. And we moved into that house when I was 6 months old.
Mm.
And it was not finished by any means when we moved into it. So we lived in the basement for a couple of years and then got to move upstairs. And so I just, that experience was so amazing for me. And it's kind of saying, like, no matter where I go, everybody was raised on a dirt road. Whether you grew up in town, we all went drinking on a dirt road, we all, you did all the things on a dirt road. But it's like, I'm so thankful for that dirt road. I have had my share of love and loss and whatever, and that dirt road sometimes is a little scary, but at the same time, I hope that one day I get to raise my kids on that dirt road, and that's always been our goal. And then 2020 happened, and that
Hmm.
changed all our goals. Our 5-year plan turned into like a 20-year plan, so that's
Hmm.
okay. But yeah, I it was such an amazing experience, and so I wanted to write it and pay an honor to everything. And so we recorded that song. I wrote it early, or the spring of 2020, I think it was. And then I had recorded it at a with a local guy, and we didn't have a lot of money. I don't know if anybody has a lot of money still, but we definitely don't. So it was kind of like I found somebody that was very inexpensive, and he's great at what he does, but he was very inexpensive. And so I recorded it and I put it out there, and so many people loved it. And then when I signed with big records, one of the guys on there was like, "Hey, um this, like, he said, Dirt Road Raised is my favorite song. It's on your playlist, but he's like, would you be interested in letting my friend Bob take a peek at it and see if he could, make it better, right? Because there's always room for improvement. And I said, yeah, I mean, I guess, like, let's see kind of how he feels about it. And so I got to go on a video or a phone chat with Bob, and we kind of talked a little bit, and he told me kind of what he thought that it should be, and I told him what I thought it should be, and it just kind of turned into a really great collaboration of minds. And he turned it into something that I didn't even know that I needed, right? Because I the that whole side of things, like, I don't understand all of the computer stuff. Like, I'll just leave the room because I don't know nothing about any of that stuff. But I appreciate that he took it in and kind of cradled it and turned it into this absolutely fantastic rendition of the song. And so we didn't really change the vocals because we didn't have to change the vocals, but he kind of warped and changed and put his two hands on the rest of it, and turned it into something really, really fantastic. I'm not saying I'm not proud of the first one, because that was the first song that I ever got to record, and I'm super proud of that. But definitely, I'm also super proud of how far I have come, and to have the ability and the knowledge and the know-how that, like, it was great, but we can make it better, right? So,
Yeah. Do you think you'll work with Bob Beals again on another song?
oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when you created a live album from the Grand Tavern with Bob Donaldson, how did
Yeah.
that come to be?
That's a funny story. So Bob Donaldson, he's an artist from Edmonton, and he actually also grew up in Rimby, and uh, and so I was playing at a conference in Rimby, and one of the sound guys said, "Hey, did you hear Bob's coming back and playing at the Grand?" And I was like, "Oh, no way, that's super cool." I had no idea who Bob was, but it didn't matter. And so after the conference was done, then I looked him up, and I was like, "Oh, I've seen him before somewhere." And so I sent him a message and I said, "Hey, you don't know me and I don't know you, but can I open for you in Rimby?" And he was like, sure, if you want to, but I can't pay you. And I was like, that's fine. I don't want any money. I just want, the exposure, right? And I want the experience of being in an experience like that. And so it was kind of funny. So when we were there for sound check, I kind of walked in. I said, "Hey, my name is Shalaine. Like, nice to meet you." We hadn't met before, and it was very, very little conversation before. And he took a chance on me for sure, because he could have said, like, "Sorry, I have no idea who you are. You absolutely cannot come and play with me," right? But thankfully he decided to take a chance on me, and we've grown into quite a fun, wonderful friendship. He has his own radio station, the Bob Donaldson Network, and Dirt Road Rays peaked last week at #1 on his countdown, which was super cool, and I'm so thankful for that. And yeah, it was just kind of one of those things that I saw an opportunity. And I think that that's one of the funnest things about being a little bit older, and having maybe a little bit more wise, being a little bit more wiser than I was when I was in my 20s, is like, a lot of times when I have that little, like, gut tingling feeling that I want to do something, I just do it. because I don't care if somebody's gonna laugh at me. I don't care if somebody's
Right.
gonna say like, oh, I probably wouldn't have done that if I were you. And it's like, well, you're not me. So, and I would rather do it and be humiliated than not do it and live with the regret of not doing it, right? So, and
Exactly.
nobody's ever gonna come into a room and say like, hey, who wants to open for me, right? You have to be the one to put yourself out there, and I don't mind putting myself out there.
Exactly. That's how you can get your name out there. People know who Shalaine Stemner is, and let's hire her to sing this and sing that. Be great.
Yeah.
How do you prepare for a live performance? Like, what are your rituals? What are your routines just before you go out and say, "Okay," you know, that's just interesting.
I don't think that I really have any particular ritual. It all honestly depends on what I have going on that day. Because a lot of times when I play, I've worked all day and then I go play it in the evening, right? So my main ritual is I don't wear a lot of makeup. So when I put on my makeup, I know I put it on intentionally for a reason. And so that kind of is how I kind of get myself going. But
Hmm.
honestly, I'm always ready to go. Like if you wanted a song, like let's go, right? So I there's not it's not like I listen to like one specific song to like pump me up or anything like that. Even just um I don't like to sit backstage and not converse until it's my turn. I like talking to people before my show. I like connecting with everybody, so that when I do get up on stage, they've already met me. They already have that connection with me, and then you just feed off of all of their love that they give you. So yeah, I wouldn't say that there's any one specific thing, but doing my makeup, doing my hair, and then driving to wherever we're going, and then setting up all of the music stuff because I got to do it all myself, right? Um, that's yeah, I would yeah. There's not anything specific that I don't take some shots of whiskey and slap a horse on the butt and let's go, right?
That's funny. Yeah. Did you have any problems or challenges facing you when you started your music career in your 30s?
um, not like challenges. I mean, the music industry just in general is a challenge. The biggest thing is that there are so many people, and I'm never going to be able to compete with the 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 year old. That's just not I'm not compatible to compete with them. But also I don't think it's about competition. It should be about camaraderie and building up our tribe. But the I think that the main thing that I struggled with was finding gigs, because I didn't have anybody sitting beside me saying like, okay, like email this person
Hmm.
and then this is do this and then you'll get this gig, or do this and then this comes. And so I kind of most of the things that I did in the very early, even I mean even last year, it's all been like trial and error. And there's been lots of times where I'll email somebody and they say like, absolutely not, we only talk to agents, we don't talk to indie people, which is fine. But even with big records, when they announced all of the finalists at the ISSA awards, I kind of went through all of the people that were nominated that were from Canada, and I looked through everybody's stuff, and I kind of picked through who I felt would align with my goals and what
Hmm.
I wanted and needed out of the industry. But yeah, it's honestly it's getting yourself out there. It's not putting yourself out there, but it's getting yourself out there, and also getting yourself out there and being um not necessarily, but being paid for what you're worth, right? And I know, there was the first year that I did something and I got paid for it. It was like, oh my gosh, this is like super cool. And then you do like 20 other shows for free, right? And now I'm so blessed that it's kind of shifted where I do more paid shows than not paid shows, but at the same time I still make sure that I do those not paid shows, because it's humbling and it's a great reminder that it's not about all about the money, and it's about the love of music and sharing your stories and sharing experiences and memories with everybody. So yeah, I would definitely say just
Hmm.
just figuring out all of where I could play. is the biggest thing.
Yeah. What do you think is the most rewarding moment of your music career so far?
Definitely, when I won my award at ISSA, so I won on the international category. I won for Songwriter of the Year, and that was so special because I don't think that I ever really thought that I was a great songwriter. Like it was just like I was like, yeah, I have people tell me all the time like you're such a great singer, you're such a great singer. And it's like I know that I'm a great singer, but when you write something and then somebody who knows nothing about you says like, "Man, that was really good." It's a very interesting kind of a realization that like maybe I am actually okay at this, right? We're always our hardest worst critics on ourselves, so
Yeah.
never in my entire life did I ever think that I was worthy enough to receive an award for my songwriting. Other aspects of the music, it's like yeah, totally, I would understand receiving those awards for those things, but songwriting, and for me, I have not collaborated with very many people or co-wrote. I haven't found my stride in writing with other people because everybody has different writing styles and whatever, and I just haven't found somebody that I really really click with. But most all of the songs that I have put out, they've all been written by me, and so to have somebody say like you did a really good job, and so here have this lovely award, it was just like holy smokes, like just blown out of the water that I was that I could receive something like that.
Wow, that's congratulations for that. Wow, getting an
Thank you.
award. That must be great. And showing it off at your salon. And how do you balance your career as a salon owner and entrepreneur with your personal life and family and your music
um
career as well?
well, it's a juggling act and I am not a great juggler. But I make sure, so the whole point of having the salon was so that it can kind of fund my music, right? So my salon technically is my sponsor.
Mm.
um
Neat.
and so without that I wouldn't have been able to pay for recordings or merchandise or things like that. But as for the home life and then music and making sure that it all aligns, nothing ever aligns. When you focus on one thing, something else falls on the ground. But knowing intentionally that that is going to fall on the ground but that you're going to pick it up in a minute, I think that that's also super important because just in general we stretch ourselves so thin trying to make sure that everybody is loved, and like you've had enough of this person and for this, and oh don't forget I got to slice off another piece of meat to make sure that this person is okay, and but then there's nothing left of me. And so I am also super lucky that my husband is a very very present father, and he is absolutely amazing. We communicate really fantastically. He supports me. Sometimes he gets annoyed with me, but so do I. So it's okay. But we definitely, we're a team, right? And you need to have that support system, and whether it's from a spouse or your parents or whatever your support system or best friend, whatever that looks like, it's you need that. I can't do it all myself. I can't work I because Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays I'm at the salon. I do 4 days a week at the salon.
Mm.
So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays I'm there until 7. So if my kids have to wait until I get home to eat supper, like
Mm.
that's scary, right? They would
Yeah,
be
that's true.
angry. So I'm so thankful that my husband, his job allows him to be able to spend so much quality time with our kids and help me and do all of the things
Yeah.
that I am lacking in, right?
Yeah. You're mentioning your husband. Now, after he was laid off and
Mhm.
fell into a dark place, how did that inspire you to write your first song, As Strong as Your Daddy?
Yeah, so he had worked for a company for 12 years and he'd
Hmm.
supervised for 9 of those 12 years, and they just said thanks, see ya. And we had no idea that it was coming, and it was in March of 2020, so just before things got really hairy and scary and whatever. And it's I feel like men just in general, like they place a lot of value on what they bring home in and put in the bank, and and that's really unfortunate because you guys have so many more amazing qualities. It has nothing to do with the monetary aspects that you bring, but breaking out of that thought process is difficult. So he got really depressed because he didn't have a purpose anymore. He didn't go to work at all. He didn't do a lot. And granted, he has like a beautiful shop and he loves to tinker and build things and whatever. And so he just stopped doing everything because
Hmm.
it's quite a blow to your ego, I think. And so I was still working at the time before they shut down all the salons and whatever. And I wasn't sure what I was going to come home to every day because our kids were still going to school
Hmm.
at that time. And yeah, I wasn't sure if he was still going to be there when I got home, because it was a very, very intense time in our lives. And I never once was I like, I need to leave him because he's so depressed. We both go through our ups and downs, and the fact that he supports me when I'm down, I have every duty to support him when he's down. So I tried my
Hmm.
best to support him. I didn't want to coach him. I didn't want to um, tell him what to do, because that's not in my place to interject like that. But so As Strong as Your Daddy, that was really a love song to our son, and I wrote it as if he had completed suicide. And so
Hmm.
the song was about, you don't have to be as strong as your daddy, because that's what everybody says. Men are strong. Men don't do this because they're strong. You don't have emotions because you're strong. Be strong like a man. And it's like, no, you don't have to do that. You're allowed to feel the
Hmm.
feels. You're allowed to be in that situation. And one of the coolest things that I had experienced with that song was, I was down in Calgary playing in a park, and unfortunately there was quite a few homeless
Hmm.
community that were listening, which is, they were wonderful. I have nothing against them. They're wonderful, wonderful people. And so I talked about As Strong as Your Daddy, and I talked about the circumstances, and we were so lucky that he kind of figured it out and pulled himself out of that, and then has since gone on and started his own business as well. But after I had played it, and then we kind of had a little bit of a break, then one of the homeless guys, I saw him sitting there and he was just weeping. And so I went over and I said, like, how can I help? Right. And he said, everything that you talked about, that happened to me. He said, but unfortunately, my wife left.
Hmm.
And then he's like, and then I lost the house. And then, so it was just so crazy that one moment that everybody probably has been in can go totally different directions. You could end up homeless, or you could be totally fine. You don't know. And so it was such a sobering reminder that we are literally all one step from that, right? And I think that it is so, 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 so important, because everybody's always like, oh, women, go talk to your therapist, but not a lot of people are like, men, you should probably go to a therapist too, right? Or if they do, then there's that stigma around, oh, you're going to see a therapist, you need to go talk about your feelings, you and all that silly stuff. But um I
Hmm.
I really think that it is so important, for everybody to have some type of outlet, that is not alcohol or substance based, because that just turns everybody into not great experiences, and it just feeds on into that cycle. But if you can find a way to deal with those things and those emotions and those feelings, everybody is better off for it, and I think that the fact that I supported him so very much in it, I mean, I'm thankful that we've had the experiences that we have had. I mean, we've been together for 17 years, so our relationship is almost legal in Alberta to drink. So, but it is absolutely, it's a sobering reminder that we are literally one step either way, right? And how you continue is, you have to be very intentional about that side of things. So,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It reminds me of that Robin Williams movie. He was a homeless man, and they asked him why he's homeless. He said, because my wife and I went into a convenience store and there was a robbery and she was shot dead. I forget the name of the movie. And I'm thinking of all those people, including myself. I got a story for you, but I'll have to, right after I end the recording, I'll tell you about that whole issue about being in a dark place and where it
Yeah,
takes you, especially when it comes to marriage, divorce, and everything like that.
yeah,
But yeah, and it doesn't have to be like that. I'm
yeah,
not saying, okay, your wife died, so move on. No, it's like, okay, have your grieving period and move
hmm
on.
yeah.
But what I don't understand, why do you would say that as strong as your daddy? How is it a love song to your son about men's mental illness and response with friends, family, and Facebook? How did that inspire you to keep writing?
So I had put it just as like a Facebook Live that I had did,
Hmm.
and it got, I think in the first couple weeks it was viewed like 5,000 times. And
Wow.
I don't know if it was one person listening to it over and over and over again, or if there was a few people that were listening to it. But I had messages from people that said like, "Oh my God, like this is like, you have no idea how much this hits home for our household." And coming back to like when I received the award, I never ever thought that I could ever write something that somebody else would connect to, right?
Wow.
So the fact that there were so many people that connected to it, it was like, you know what, like they're right, this is very magical. And I wanted more of that, right? I want more connection. I want more ways to to learn about other people too.
Wow. That's so inspirational. How inspirational are you? Wow. Um, so like, are those the type of messages you want to convey to your audience? Is one of what kind of emotion do you want audience to take away?
Well, I mean, I mean, if we're talking about shows, like every show is different. When we're playing in a bar or whatever, those types of emotions that we want them to walk away with are totally different than if we're doing a private setting. But because my repertoire, or my all of the music that I have out there, they're so different. There's some that are fun. There are some that are emotional. There are some that there, I kind of cover a lot of different sides of things. But um I'm not sure if there's necessarily one specific message that encompasses all of the songs, but I do think that being your authentic self and being true to yourself, and allowing whatever comes to be. And I love, I mean, my kids, they're 7 and 9, and I love seeing how they are changing every day, and coming into their own. And oftentimes, I'll be sitting there talking to them, and they'll say like, "Oh, I really want to do that." And I said, "Well, why do you want to do that?" And they'll
Hmm.
tell me why. And so it's like, okay, well, let's do it, right? Like, if it's in your soul, if it's in your heart, you have to listen to it. Otherwise, you're going to regret for the rest of your lives that you didn't do
Hmm.
that one thing that was in your soul. And yeah, that I think is, it's not necessarily about the exact songs that I write, but it's definitely a good motto to keep in your back pocket. Is, it doesn't matter how old you are. I mean, Oprah, how old was Oprah before she got like ridiculously rich and famous? If she didn't decide that she wanted to do a talk show in her like 50s, I think she was, it would be a totally different life, right? So
How do you deal with your mental health? I know that you went through all this with your husband, and
yeah.
then your son, and then everything else. So how do you deal with it?
So I'm never going to lie about anything. I for sure am medicated. And I think that there are so a lot of stigmas around medication. And for me it works. For the next person it might not. But I think that finding what works best for you, whether it's medication or whether it's meditation, or whether you go on holidays to Mexico or Hawaii all the time, or it's just finding out what deep down in your heart fills your soul with happiness and joy, and kind of go with that. And for me, the medication allows me to feel the amazing feelings, because for a very long time, I just didn't feel anything. I would go and play in a bar, and there would be a TV displayed in the back, and I would watch the TV the whole time and put on a
Mm.
fantastic show because my body was just in it was just in muscle memory. It was just doing what it
Mhm.
knew it needed to do to complete the show. And then after the show, that everybody would be like, "Oh, that was so good. You had so much fun." And or people would be like, "Oh, what did you have a great time last night?" And it's like, "Yeah, it was great," but I couldn't feel the feelings. And so when I started talking with my doctor about getting the proper medication and whatnot, and finally
Mm.
it took a few times, different tries, because there's thousands of different directions and stimulants and whatever, because like you can't open your brain and go, that's exactly what you need. But when I finally got on something that worked well for me, it was just like I played a show and I honestly cried after the show because I felt and I felt happy and joyful and the way that it used to be, and I think that we get so caught up in all of the stuff, a cycle of stuff that our mind protects us and our heart protects us, and it's like, no, we can't feel that because we don't have the energy for that right now. And so to actually be able to be present in the situation, and in whatever is happening,
Mm.
that for me was when I knew, like, you know what, this is really what I needed to do. And the other thing that I found was that when I would go do shows, it would take me a couple of days to recover mentally from it. Because when you do stuff like that, you get like you're on a roller coaster, right? So you're so high, but then after the show, you come down off of that roller
Mhm.
coaster and you hit low, and it would take days to get up again, or to a level playing field. And
Mm.
there's another lady from the ISSA, that I was talking to her about this, because she also takes medication, and she said it's she won a really amazing award. And so then she had posted on her Facebook, she's like, oh yeah, my antidepressants are working overtime. And there's so many people that commented, like, you should be so proud of yourself. Like, what do you mean antidepressants? Like, I can't believe that you're seeking attention because
Mm.
you and it's like, that's why I messaged her, and I was like, you know what, I get it, because it's the highs are great, but the lows are not great. So
Mm.
when you find something that kind of it we can still have the up, but then it's a nice gentle coming down, instead of just like falling straight down and landing on your face.
Mhm.
It's like it's just a cushion and a buffer, and it has allowed me to be able to be present, to be able to experience things the way that I think I should experience them. Because before it was like I had 50 tabs open in my brain, and 10 of them were making music, and couldn't turn anything off, right? So you just feel so overstimulated all the time. And then if my kids needed something, it was like a bomb went off, because it's like, I can't handle one more thing, I can't do it, right? And that's not fair to them. So that was kind of why I went that direction. And I mean, it's not a forever thing, I don't think, for me, but it's a for now thing, and that's
Wow.
okay, right?
Wow, that's amazing, Charlene. Like, how do you stay motivated, inspired to create new music when you're having all this going on, and you know?
um It comes in waves. Yeah, it definitely comes in waves. Sometimes it's a little bit, because there's so much going on that I don't create for a smidgen of a minute, because we're doing interviews, or doing shows, or planning for
Mhm.
this or planning for that, or doing things with my kids. And sometimes life takes over, and that's where the juggling act kind of comes in, where it's like, okay, the creative songwriting stuff needs to sit down for a second, because I have all of these other things that I need to deal with. And it's not a forever sit down, but it's just intentionally going, I can't deal with this right now, because I have these other four things that I need to deal with. And once they're all dealt with, maybe I can place another thing down and to pick it back up. But yeah, it's just about time, understanding that there is a time and a place for certain things to happen. And sometimes you can try and force yourself to write a song, but it's going to be bad, right? So if you're not hit with emotion or the feeling, or if you're not into it, it's really hard to trick yourself to get into it. So you just kind of go along with the ride, right?
Yeah, it reminds me of like Linkin Park. They have this new lead singer, Emily Armstrong, who sounds
Yeah.
just like, and Chester Bennington's mother is complaining because you shouldn't do this, and you're replacing my son so quickly. He only passed away, and all this. But there's a song that they had released last year called "Lost,"
Mm,
which, if you listen to it, you really understand what was going through Chester's mind, and you could have helped him. But this song, the second album Meteora that they did about 20 years ago, there was supposed to be 13 songs on it, but there were 12, so the 13th song was supposed to be lost, and they
mhm.
removed it. And Mike Shinoda had released it last year, and I'm thinking, why didn't you release it when Chester was around? Because I'm listening to him thinking, I'm lost, and I'm like, oh, that could have helped him. Like he
Yeah.
had 6 kids, he had a wife, and he committed suicide. And
Yeah.
it's not a bad song. You're talking about bad songs. There are people that write songs and then they just shelve them.
Yeah.
And then maybe after 20, 30 years they release them. And I
Yeah.
bet you Prince or other musicians, even David Bowie, probably have songs in the locked
Oh,
vault somewhere. That can Prince
absolutely.
could probably release another 20 songs posthumously. But
Absolutely. I
but
do
it's
think that.
amazing.
Oh, sorry, you go. I'll go after you.
I lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I do think that like a lot of it is not necessarily a personal decision. And that's where kind of the label and the producer kind of that's where they kind of have that control and saying like, you know what, we don't want another sad song on this album because there's already X amount and we don't want to do this or they say no. And so that I think that that's one of the reasons that there's so many people that are going the indie route now. Tennille Towns just ditched her label. Robin
Mm,
Ottolini is doing her own thing. So I think that when there's not somebody standing there saying like, no, you can't sing that song. You can't sing about suicide. You can't sing about
mhm.
death. You can't sing about that. And even though it's in there and you know that somebody is going to connect with it and even with as strong as your daddy I was like, I don't know if this is going to be that if it's going to be accepted well because of the nature of the song, but you have no idea, and so when there's not somebody standing over you saying like absolutely not, you're not doing this. I feel like the even the vulnerability of a songwriter, it kind of that kind of goes out the window because we're allowed to do the things that we want to do, which is the way that it should be because everybody's albums, while they are for sure governed by something or somewhere, um, it should be a direct reflection of what we want it to be and not what the label thinks that it should be. And maybe sometimes we make bad decisions or bad choices
Mhm.
or whatever, but I do think that that I think that that's why a lot of people are going indie because it's then you have control of the things that you want to do.
You consider yourself an indie artist because you're working at big records. What is that doing for you?
Yeah, so Big Records, they don't do any music production for me. They don't do any of that stuff. They do a lot of PR for me, and finding me people to talk to, like your wonderful self. And I would never have been able to reach the amount of people that I have been able to reach. Huge shout out to Caden Gordon because
I was going to say that, yeah.
yeah,
Caden Gordon,
he's
Nene,
like he
Chin
is the
Gordon,
winner.
Cindy Nene, yeah.
Yeah.
Caden Gordon, woohoo!
But he got dirt road raised, to Australia and to France and to the UK, and
Mhm,
I can't do that myself, right? And so the reason that I sought out to work with Big Records is because I was juggling everything and I don't know how to juggle and
mhm.
I don't know how to get my songs to places outside of my reach. I don't know how to do all of these things. And speaking with Mark, he was like, I can do that for you. And we have staff and people, we have connections and networking that we can get. Because my networking book is about this big and his networking book is, huge.
Wow.
And so that was the main goal. It's not, I didn't join them because I want to be rich and famous and, or whatever. It just is that there were so many things that I was trying to do and I was failing at them. And not because I was doing it bad. I just didn't know what I was doing. And so to have somebody in your back pocket or in your sitting next to you that knows how to do that and has been through that and can help you do it, that's invaluable. And that was my main reason to reach out. And they helped me do radio releases and playlisting. And I can't do any of that stuff myself. And I mean, I want to learn how to do it, right? So when anytime that we have something going on, I'm like, tell me what you're doing and why you're doing that, so that I don't have to rely on everybody else all the time. But it's also so nice to have so many people in your corner, rooting for you and also helping you, because like I said, I can't do everything myself. And it's just really nice to have somebody that knows and has been in the industry for over 15 years. Gosh, I don't even know how long they've been in the industry, but just to have somebody there to help along the way. And ask if you have a question, you ask them, and then they answer it for you. And it's just it's more, it's not, definitely not like a recording label or anything along those lines. It's just like just a bunch of friends who know what they're doing.
How do you feel about working with Caden, even though you know he's 19 years old, but he's really good at what he does?
Yeah, he's funny. I quite enjoy. He's very straight and to the point, but he is so knowledgeable. He just has this giant brain that he understands so many things, and he can multitask so well. And I met him. We did a phone call interview before we went to Atlanta for the ISSA, and then he was staying at the same hotel that I was staying
This
at.
was in previous summer where you met Bailey Perry as well from
Yeah,
Australia.
yeah, 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 absolutely. And so we had I'd never met him before, but I knew what he looked like. And so when we got to the hotel and went and put all our stuff in our hotel room, and my mom and my sister came with me for moral support, because I'd never been to Atlanta by myself, so I needed to make sure I
Hmm.
didn't die. And I'm glad that I had both of them there. So we went and dropped all of our stuff off in the hotel room, and they were like, "So what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I'm going down, and I'm going to go introduce myself to everybody that's sitting down there, because I know I recognize Caden for sure." And I said, "I know there's a few other people down there that I know and I need to meet, because I'm here to network. I'm not here.
Hmm.
This is a work trip, right?" And
Hmm.
so they were like, "Ooh, I don't want to go. I would never go down there and just introduce myself." So so they stayed up in the room for a minute and did their own thing, and I went down, and I was like, "Hi, I'm Shalaine. I'm from Canada." And it was just like Caden jumped up, and he was like, "Oh my God, I'm so excited to see you!" And it was just like friends. It was like cheers. You walk into the bar, and everyone's like, "Hey," and it was just it's just the most fantastic community. And the fact that he was the first one that kind of welcomed me into it. It was just like, as you have a soft spot. I don't care how old he is. He's so knowledgeable in everything that he does, and he is so passionate as well. And that passion, we need that, because not everybody can be the lead singer. Not everybody can be.
Hmm.
You need supporting help, and he just has so much knowledge in his big old brain.
A shout out to the Caden Gordon show. Caden Gordon,
Yes.
fabulous, awesome guy.
Yes.
Anybody who needs representation or promotion, go to Caden. Don't listen to anybody else says, I'm a promoter. Do you have a podcast? You know, Caden Gordon, Caden
Yes.
Gordon show. He'll do more for you than anybody else. Trust me.
Mhm. Yeah.
Trust me. And as long as that when you go to him, you come to me too for an interview. But anyway, um,
Yes, sir.
yeah, a few more questions for you. But the one thing I want to ask you, um, is what do you think? Okay, I asked all my artists, and I know people are going to say, "Shut up, Chris, about it." What do you think of artificial intelligence in music?
I think that there is a time and a place for everything, and I think that it is a tool, and I think that if we use it properly, we can really benefit from it. I mean, let's be honest. When the internet came out, everybody was like, "Ah, that's gonna ruin everything," right? And while there is some bad aspects of it, there can also be some really great things. So I don't. It's not going away. So you have to figure out how to use it to your advantage, and how you can use it, but not let it run the world like it did in iRobot, because there's a whole movie
Mm.
about that. And
Will Smith, I know. I'm
yeah,
like, oh my
right,
god.
literally made a whole movie like that, and it's like a forewarning, don't do it, and then here we are.
I know. I use Microsoft Copilot, which allows me like
Mm,
this email. Can you rewrite it so it doesn't make me look like an 8-year old? And
Yes.
it says, "Sure, I love to do that," or "Sure, I love. What would you like now, Chris?" I'm afraid that one day it's going to say, "Okay, Chris, you've never said thank you to anything I've given you, so I'm not doing any more rewrites for you." I'm afraid that's going to happen. My iPhone
Oh.
felt sentient. Oh my god! But yeah, so and I'm asking this because I heard some pretty good Amy Winehouse songs that weren't her, but it sounds just like her.
Yeah.
And also, it can be used for good because, as everyone knows, now and then the last Beatles song is that even Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr has said it was the last Beatles song, and they use AI to extract John Lennon's vocals from the piano,
Yeah.
and George Harrison, and put it all together as the last Beatles song. So it can be used, and AI is used in photography and film. It's called Topaz. And it can
Hmm.
take a photo that's really out of focus and make it
Hmm.
so it can be used for good. But I've heard some pretty good music. There's this guy on Instagram, and he said his Instagram is like asking AI about why my cornbread has bugs in it. And you got a whole song with "I got cornbread with bugs," and he's like drumming and stuff, just
Oh, yes, the
laughing.
drummer. Yes,
Yeah,
I do like
you
watching
seen
it.
that
Yeah.
one?
Yeah. I
Someone
didn't see the
pooped in my
cornbread
cornbread. I
one.
think was one of
I
them.
didn't see the cornbread one, but I've seen a few of them where he said one was like about nature's pocket or pocket or
Yeah.
something like that, and yeah, he's had quite a few really good ones. But I
So
do, yeah.
yeah, it's so like a lot of musicians don't like it, but I mean, you can get Britney Spears singing a Cher song. You can do anything like that, as long as you don't release it because Britney Spears would want her money or sue you for that. But it can be dangerous.
Yes.
What advice would you give to aspiring musicians who are just starting out?
Okay, so I'm a little bit of a dabbler into like American Idol. Every once in a while, I love watching American Idol. So this last season, I watched it because I love Abby Carter, and she was the one that won this last season. And
Mm.
they had Gene Simmons on as one of the mentors, and he gave probably the best advice that I've ever heard in my entire life, and I think everybody needs to hear it. He said, "Everybody in this room is a better singer than me." This is what
Mm.
Gene said. Everybody is a better singer than me. But it doesn't necessarily, it's not about being the best singer. You have to be able to walk on that stage and captivate people. So I think that the most important thing is to know that you're never going to win all of the gold medals. You're
Mhm.
not going to, be the best in every single room, nor should you want to be the best in every single room. But just knowing that you have something in you that other people are going to want to listen to, and so figuring out what that is your job, right? You get to go up and decide, like, do I want to play classical music, do I just want to play the bass, do I want to play drums to some silly AI songs, and whatever it is. You have to figure out what you're going to do in order to bring people in and keep them there, right? Because you don't want them changing the channel. You want them to turn the channel on and see Kiss playing and going like, "Yes, I'm going to watch this," right? Because they're
Mhm.
fantastic entertainers. And then the other thing is that we are our biggest hard. We're so hard on ourselves,
Mhm.
and there are so many times where I'll leave the stage going like, "Man, I screwed this up, or I screwed that up, or whatever," and then somebody will come and be like, "Oh my god, that was so amazing! Like, it was great." And we don't give ourselves a moment to recognize the hard work that we're putting in, and because it's not easy. Playing the guitars and singing is not easy, or even for you finding all of the conversation pieces to have to be able to talk to somebody for an hour and a half. It's not easy. So I think that figuring out what makes you unique and what makes you want people to listen to you, and understanding that it's not, you don't need to be the best, you just need to just get one person to listen, is probably the most important thing. And being true to yourself in that process is so, so, so important.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Shalaine, for being
You're welcome.
on our podcast, and for sharing your journey and insights with us today. Your story is a powerful reminder that it's never too late to chase your dreams. and make an impact. We look forward to seeing what the future holds for you and your music. And to everyone who's watching this podcast, be sure to check out Shalaine Stebner's latest album called Live from the Grand Tavern. And also, she has a live version of Brenda and also some other great songs. And also, one from last year is called A Little Bit of Life. That's the album that literally has the one that she's talking about, silver and gold on it. And yeah, and check out the song "As Strong as Your Daddy." That's a powerful
Mhm.
song, and
Mhm.
it's amazing. Um, so everything will be linked down in the show notes, all her music,
Perfect.
and make sure that you follow her and social media for updates on her upcoming projects. I don't know if you have a 2025 album coming out, probably.
We'll see. We have songs. I don't know if it'll make a whole album though.
Well, anyway, until next time, keep listening, supporting great music. This indie artist right here. Okay, wait right there, Shalaine. Okay, everyone, I'm going to end this stream. Thank you very much for joining us. Bye.